Good morning, guys. Welcome to our assembly for today. I'm in my garden at the moment. It's Sunday and I'm recording this because I wanted to do a little bit of talk about the Birdwatch that we're going to be doing next weekend. So next weekend is the Great Garden Birdwatch for the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. And as part of our Science Week, which is going to be the week after, we're going to ask you guys to do the Great Garden Birdwatch and count some birds. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that when I'm inside in the warm, because you can see in the background it's snowing at the moment. But I thought I'd show you a little bit of what I'm doing to look after the birds in my garden. So, let's see. We're going to have a bit of a walk around. This is my bird feeding station. Now, I can actually see one of the fat pigeons that comes to my bird feeding station flying around at the moment. And in my bird feeding station I've got these fatty suet feeders. It's made of suet and there's all sorts of seeds inside them. Okay, let's get you around here, this one, and this has got a mixture of seeds. There you go, can you see? A mixture of seeds, but if you look really closely, there's dried worms in there as well, and the birds will get lots and lots of energy from that. Now you can see that that one is pretty much empty, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to refill it. So the reason I'm using these suet feeders at the moment is because it's so cold, and I'm standing outside in the freezing cold in the snow, putting these suet balls into the bird feeder, and the suet balls are full of energy for the birds, and the birds have to use a lot of energy keeping warm, so they eat these. They really seem to like these at the moment, and I have a lot of birds on my feeders eating these up. Now what I'm also finding is that I get lots of big crows and pigeons particularly, and the crows and pigeons will come to the feeders, and because they're so big they scare off the smaller birds and they eat up all the food. And the smaller birds, I've got some robins and blue tits and I saw a goldcrest last week, they will come to the feeders, but then the bigger birds come along and scare them away. So that's why I bought this one. I'm not sure about this feeder yet, because this is a squirrel cage around the outside. Now I don't get squirrels in my garden, but what I'm hoping is that we'll be able to have the little birds in the squirrel feeders kind of sneak through the gaps in there, eat some of the seeds and some of the mealworms like I showed you on the other one, and then they'll be able to, that will be protected so the crows can't get in there. That's the plan. I've also noticed that this one, can you see, needs filling up as well. So there's only the two holes in this one. Just kind of shake it up a bit because it's got a bit stuck, and that's the one with the mealworms in. So what I'm doing with that one is I'm putting a bit of a mix of things in there. So there's lots of high energy stuff. So in this one, again, I've got that suet mix, which is that, and it's lots of energy for the birds. And just sprinkle it in there so you can see it. Okay, and a little bit more. I don't think somehow I've got a career on Blue Peter. I'm not doing this terribly well, but you get the idea. And now my bird feeding station is all set up. Now my bird feeding station in my garden has kind of got more and more use over the past couple of months really, because above it there's this huge tree, and it's difficult to see because the bottom part of the tree is kind of bare of berries, but the top part of the tree is absolutely covered with berries. And what it seems that's been happening is the birds have eaten the berries from the bottom of the tree upwards, and they are close to finishing off all the berries on the tree. There's actually lots lying around in the garden at the moment where they've fallen, and I'll see the robin. If I sit at my dining table, no doubt I'll see the robin, and the robin will be eating the berries from the ground. And that means that they've all run out. So the birds are really, really looking for the bird food. Now, it's really important that we feed birds at this time of year because the berries on the trees have gone. They've run out. All the birds have eaten them. And that means that the birds are running out of food. So it's really important that we feed the birds at the moment, and they will keep coming to our gardens. Now, as you've seen from bits of my garden, there's all sorts of plants and bushes around, all sorts of bits of undergrowth where the birds can hop about and get some shelter and protection. And I've even got bird box on the wall, so hopefully in the spring birds moving into that bird box. So there's all sorts of different places where the birds can be, and I'm going to make sure that I keep feeding the birds really, really regularly. It's just like if you go to sit down at the breakfast table and mum and dad say, no, you're not having breakfast today. You'd be a bit worried about what was going on, just like the birds will be, in exactly the same way. So I'm making sure I'm being really regular about feeding the birds, and I'm just going to pop those 2 suet balls down on there because it's important that we feed the birds in lots of different ways. So next part of the video I'm going to do from inside because I'm freezing. It's cold because it's snowy, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about the Great Garden Birdwatch and the sorts of things that we're going to be doing with that. So there you go. I've given you a quick guided tour of my garden. I'm going to get inside in the warm now. See you in a bit. Hi, welcome to the next part of our assembly. So I recorded the first part of the assembly on Sunday when I was in my garden, and it was snowing outside, and then I came back inside and warmed up. It took me absolutely ages. It was freezing in the snow. And now I'm back inside. Today is Monday, but you're going to be watching this on Wednesday. So I'm sat in my office in the warm, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the Great Garden Birdwatch. So over the next weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you guys, we are going to ask you to take part in the Great Garden Birdwatch. Okay, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that one. So let's have a look at this. So here we go, the Big Schools Birdwatch. Okay, so here's lots of information about it. And every year in January and February, the RSPB ask children right the way across the UK to count birds in their school grounds. Now, some of you can do this in your school grounds if you're doing it on the Friday. Some of you can do it at home. You could do it over the weekend, or you could do it on Friday. So you might see birds in the school playground. You might see birds in the garden, like I showed you the birds in mine. And hold on a moment. You might see all sorts of different things around and about. And it's important that we get that really full picture of what it is, what the birds are that are around. Okay, so how many birds do you think might be visiting the school? There's a big question. How many birds? I've got no idea. Absolutely none. So it's really important to work together as a team. Now, why do you think the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, asks for help counting the birds? Tell your grown up. Well, there's lots of different reasons. First of all, it would be far too difficult for one person to count them all, but also we can find out how many different birds, how many different species can be seen, different types of birds, so that we can compare the results from one year to the next, so that we can get as much information in such a short space of time to see if there are more or less birds than we thought, and to see if any particular types of birds need help, so that we can feed the right sorts of birds or put in these habitats for extra birds, and to see how our wildlife is doing in general. So it gives us that picture of how the birds are doing across the UK. And if everyone sees a lot of birds during the birdwatch, we know the bird population is healthy, and that tells us that the rest of our wildlife is probably doing okay as well. So it gives us that way of capturing all that information right the way across the UK in one go. Now, birds are really, really important because plants rely on them to spread seeds around and about. So if the birds are doing well, then the rest of the animals are doing well as well. Because things eat the birds, cats eat the birds, or other bigger birds eat these small garden birds, they're an important part of the food chain. And that means that there's other things that rely on eating these things that you can see on the screen. So it means that everything is that bit more healthy. Okay. Now, we take all of this information from the Birdwatch and we compare it to the previous year's information and the information of the year before to see if there are any changes. And then we work out which birds are in trouble and what we can do to help them. So we know that between 1977, when I was 2, and 2008, the numbers of sparrows dropped. So that could be because they weren't finding enough insects to eat and feed the chicks. And to help house sparrows in London, the RSPB planted more long grasses, wildflowers, and plants that produce lots of seeds in some of the parks there. And more plants means more insects for the birds, which is really, really cool. So last year, over 90,000 pupils and teachers took part, and the blackbird, starling, and house sparrow topped the charts as the 3 most spotted species of birds across the UK. And you might have seen massive flocks of starlings flying around. And certainly I stopped the other day and I was watching a massive load of starlings. It's called a murmuration, flying across the sky. And it's just starlings from one side of the sky to the other. It was amazing. So how can you tell what type of bird you've seen or what species of bird you've seen? So there's different things that we can look at, right? So we're going to have a look at the different sorts of things. So what might you be spotting? Tell you grown up what sort of ways you might have of spotting the different types of birds. Okay, I reckon some people have said size and shape of the beak. You might have said the size and shape of the bird. That bird is a different size and shape to that bird. You might hear the song. You might see the colour of the feathers. So we can see that the robin has got that red breast and what the legs and feet look like. So there's lots of different ways to tell, just like there's lots of different ways to tell all of us apart. So let's see if you know the names of some of these birds. There's a clue. You can hear it. You can see its beak. You can see that eye. I wonder if you can tell. You can see the shape of its back, its feathers. Who knows what this bird is? Shout it out if you know it. It's a blackbird. Well done. Let's look at the next one. I think this one's a bit harder. See what you think. There's its beak. It's quite a stunning colour of beak. It's very grey. There's its legs, its claws on the branch. There we go. We've got the rest of the colours. I love the colours of this bird. I don't see many of these in my garden. This is a chaffinch. And chaffinches have got a very big, full, hard beak because what they do is they get seeds out from very sharp, dried flowers, so particularly teasels, and they will jam their beak in there, and there's lots of protection from the feathers. So if they're pushing into the flowers of something particularly prickly, it doesn't hurt them. What about this one? Well, we've seen this one already with this colour. There we go. We can see its face, and it's got the red colour all the way down there, all the way down there. Yeah, that's right. It's a robin, and I bet you've seen lots of pictures of robins at Christmas time on Christmas cards. Ooh. You might have heard this bird in your garden. There you go. It's called a great tit. Now, the great tit has got quite a long tail. You can't see it there. And it's got that black head with the white stripe on the side of it and then the yellow feathers on the chest. Oh gosh, this one's hard. Sounds like it's screaming at you. It's got lots of yellow on it there. I love those black shapes on the wings. There we go. It's a green finch. Now, a finch, like the chaffinch, has got that same shape of beak, so it can jam its head into those sharp plants and it doesn't get hurt. I bet you know this one. I bet you know. You can certainly tell from that beak. And look at those feet. Big paddles to wade on, and this bird is walking on the ice. It's a duck. That's right. And now this duck is a particular type of duck called a mallard. And you see mallards with the green head, and that's the male duck. That's the boy. Okay. So, yep. I don't see any ducks in my garden because I haven't got lots of water in my garden. But if you're lucky enough to have a massive pond, you might, if you're lucky, see a mallard. Now, it's your turn. So all of this information is going to tell the RSPB about how many birds that we've got around and about. So your homework this weekend is going to be to take part in the Great Garden Birdwatch and then to submit your results. So we're going to send out more information in the newsletters. And one other thing that I'm going to show you on Friday's assembly, I am going to be making, I'm going to try, because I'm probably going to make a real mess of this, I am going to try to make a bird feeder for my garden. Okay, now it's something really, really easy that you guys can do as well, with a bit of lard and some seeds and some raisins or some cheese or peanuts, and you can put them all, mix them all up, and I'm going to be doing that in Friday's assembly, and I'll give you a bit more information on how to take part in the Birdwatch. So there you go, guys. So you can talk to your grown-ups about it. You can get thinking about the birds that you can see in your garden, and you can get thinking about how you might look after the birds, and your teachers might be telling you some more stuff about it in advance of our Science Week, which is going to be next week. So there you go, guys. Right, I will see you soon. Bye-bye.